right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy right here on Fans Only Sports Network, the Wildcard Weekend Preview Edition. But of course, before we get started, we'll give you those introductions that you all know and love so well. I am your host, Chet, and of course, to my right here is my wonderful counterpart, Duffy. Duffy, it's our third straight year, I believe, at this point. Our second here at Fans Only Sports, but our third straight year overall of covering the NFL season and now the postseason. And I mean, it's been quite a crazy 3 years. Look, putting it into retrospect. I know I could be saying this for the Super Bowl, but I'm kind of putting it into perspective right now because we've really been bringing it up every so often.
Yeah, man. We've been doing this for a long time, me and you. We're pretty seasoned, and I'm glad to take my second straight regular season picks victory. You kind of got me the first couple of years, but
Yeah.
I'm back. We have a tie ball game. I can't wait for year 7 when it gets to there. The best of 7. I'm gonna win. Actually, I'm gonna win 6.
You're going to
But
win in 6.
yeah, I mean, we're here for covering our 4th playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
On our show, and it's going to be pretty hyped. I remember our first shows back in the day of Unapologetic. When we first joined Fans Only, it was during the playoffs. It was right before that wild card weekend
Yeah.
years ago, and it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely very amazing to see how the show has kind of really grown since then. And of course, we always will be producing content here on season 3 of Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. So we're going right into the affair for this weekend for the NFL. Of course, the only things we'll be talking about in this episode is these wild card matchups. So we'll start from Saturday all the way to Monday and talk about each game and really break down what we expect to see out of this. So we'll start right out of the gate with game number 1 that's going to take place at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California at 4:30 p.m. on Saturday between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. Niners, number 2 seed facing the 7th seed. Seahawks sitting at 13-4 to the Seahawks 9-8 record. Of course, both teams have had a very interesting season. This will be the third time these two teams meet. Third time out of 3 teams in this NFL postseason that both teams will play each other for a third time. But this is the first of the ticker. And of course, Brock Purdy still coming in to start for the injured Jimmy Garoppolo. And of course, Trey Lance on IR. Geno Smith arguing a very strong case, if not the only case, for comeback player of the year this season, leading the Seahawks to a very unexpected 9-8 record and a postseason berth. It's quite a matchup to be set.
Yeah, I think for either way that this Seahawks season ends, it was a good season for Seattle. It's the team that some people predicted to win less than 4 games. A lot of pundits did. I actually saw the Seahawks made a little highlight reel, keeping the receipts of all the media moguls, predicting that they would suck. Some guys said they go 0-17, and other guys said on the Colin Cowherd show that if the Seahawks were over 500, he'd shave a Seattle Seahawk into his head, the logo. So hopefully that happens. But hey, this is a team, Seahawks team, and unlike the other 2 series that we got, being for the third time this year, this is the only one that was a sweep. Niners got the better hand of the Seahawks both times in pretty dominating fashion each game this year, with 2 different quarterbacks each game. The first game actually was the one that Trey Lance got injured in, and Garoppolo stepped up to the occasion. But hey, I mean, it's really tough to beat a team 3 times in a year. Extremely tough. We saw it in 2017 with the Saints and Panthers, but there's examples in recent history of that not happening. I mean, the Bucs got swept by the Saints a couple of years ago and ended up going to New Orleans in the playoffs and beating them. I mean, the New York Giants in their first miracle Super Bowl run, they got swept by the Dallas Cowboys back in 2007, beat them on the road in Dallas. So, anything can happen. I mean, no 7 seed has won a playoff game since the expanded format 2 years ago. Seahawks trying to become the first one, and we're looking at a 9.5 point underdog right now. So
yeah,
it's one of those games. I predicted about it yesterday with my boy Benny. I think the Niners are going to win, but I think it'll be really close. I mean, the Niners are just too hot right now. They're too streaky. If the Seahawks were to beat the Niners at home a few weeks ago, I probably would have picked Seattle in this game just for some upset shock factor. But Seattle's just looked so flat, so incompetent on offense. And it looks like the Niners have been really the only team this year that's really had the Seahawks number. I mean, Seahawks have had some slow games on offense, but they haven't really shit the bed in more than a couple games, and both of them were against the Niners. So, being in Santa Clara, California, being at Levi Stadium with the streak that this Niners team is on, I think they're going to win. I got Seattle covering that plus 9.5. I think it'll be a one-score game.
Wow, that's very interesting right there. I mean, yeah, you look at the way these matchups had ended up. Niners took the first one 27-7 back in week 2, and then back in week 15, 21-13. Definitely good that the Seahawks were able to keep them under 30 points in each of these games. However, weren't able to produce much on offense. That's something they're going to need for this game. They're going to need to get Kenneth Walker more involved. They're going to need to get Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf really going. Geno Smith, he's got to do what Russell Wilson could never do really in the postseason, except way back when, which is cook. He's got to cook just like Russ did. For the Niners in this case, they're going with 7th round quarterback Brock Purdy, who's ever since coming to the team has really kind of kept the Niners on a good stretch, and they haven't seemed to lose a single game with him at the helm. So for the Niners right now, I like what I see. This is the most healthiest we've seen them in a very long time. Very long time. And the fact is, this team is built to win right now. You see Christian McCaffrey coming in the Week 8 trade, really transcending that offense a whole lot more besides just having to rely on Elijah Mitchell in the backfield being injured for most of the season. And then, of course, George Kittle back to full health, looking like the George Kittle we all know and love. Deebo Samuel also back to healthy. We'll see if he can maintain that in the postseason. But like you said, Duffy, I mean, it's really tough to sweep an opponent, especially a divisional opponent. And it's tough to do it a third time because the Niners, they were out on the tail end of this one last year with the Rams, sweeping them twice, but then in the playoffs, lost in the NFC Conference Championship game. So right now, they need to do everything they can to prevent that from happening again. That involves just playing great defense as they have all year. They've been one of the best defenses in football, without a doubt. And this offense, it needs to do enough to get the points on the board. Doesn't matter how they do it, as long as you're getting points and your defense is keeping this offense off the field. They've been able to do it in the regular season, but the postseason is a totally different animal. I would like to say that the Seahawks do stand a chance, but in my eyes, I don't think so. I think the Niners are just too experienced of a playoff team in recent memory, and they definitely want some revenge after last season, after falling 20-17 in that conference championship game. And they look really good right now, way better than they ever have in the last 3 years. So for right now, give me the Niners. I'm going to say final score on this one is going to be... This one's tough. I'm going to go... You said one-score game. I'm going to give the Niners the edge. 28-24.
I'm going to say 31-23 final.
Solid pick right there. Solid pick. So each Chet and Duffy have selected the Niners. So, of course, just for viewers' sake, we'll be recording these games just like we have for locks and upsets, except it doesn't matter if it's a lock or an upset. We're just picking the games as they are. So whoever Duffy and Chet pick, it will be counted against the regular season record. Of course, Duffy is the regular season champ. Beat me by 2.5 games. It was a very close one towards the end, but I just kept getting a win and a loss each week. So it was really tough to kind of stay afloat ahead of this guy.
That's what happens when you're not a good picker of games.
Yeah, okay, bro. Yeah. Let's take a look at your picks that you've made recently. You hitting anything?
I tried.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah. Who's a good pick?
A bet that kind of spun me this past week was Jets Bengals. I had Jets plus 3.5.
Oh,
and it was 9-6, and they did that safety on the last play of the game on the lateral.
That sucks. That really does suck.
Yeah,
so it didn't cover.
I had it in a 2-way parlay with Pittsburgh money line. I would have won like $20. It sucked.
It is what it is. You win some, you lose some. I guess in that case. Now,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. You got it. You got it. You got it. So now that concludes our portion of the 4:30 slot. Now we move to the 8:15 slot. This one probably will be, without a doubt, in this case, I guess you can say, and I wrote this in my article that I'm writing about the playoffs, this is the all-time hair matchup between two of the very young and talented quarterbacks in Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert as the Jacksonville Jaguars host the Los Angeles Chargers at 8:15. 9-8 Jags up against the 10-7 squad Chargers. Both teams come into the affair in a very interesting spot. The Chargers, this is the best we've seen them play in a very long time. They look very healthy as of this point. Herbert, a little shaken up from that week 2 injury, but ever since then, he hasn't missed a game, and he's been playing a lot better towards the end. But not even just that, his team's played a lot better as a whole. They're in the postseason for a reason. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams back to full health, Austin Eckler playing phenomenally, actually finishing the season with one more reception than Christian McCaffrey to lead the league for running backs and receptions with 107. Now for the Jags, we're talking about Trevor Lawrence, and the Jaguars in this case, who seemingly we thought would go through another year of a rebuild. They've really flipped the script on us and made us really scratch our heads going, wow, this Jags team's for real and could be for real for a long time for all we know. So, Duffy, what's your thoughts going into this matchup? Because this is a really good setup here for a game.
Sure is. I'm going to get two really great young quarterbacks in Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence under the lights. So both making their playoff debuts, both got to see if they're ready for this moment, honestly. And I think with Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence, you got two guys, like you said, both with excellent hair, two gunslingers. Two guys who can fit balls in the tight windows. Just two really solid young bucks. And we saw this game back in week 3. The Jaguars absolutely smoked the Chargers in Los Angeles. But I think it's a different story this weekend. I think Herbert's more ready for this moment, to win a playoff game. I think the league kind of wants the Chargers to win too.
Mm-hmm.
The winner of this game will most likely play the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll see what happens, but most likely. And that Chargers Chiefs game and a tie with the Bills Bengals game would be crazy. If you think about it for the AFC ratings. Yeah, man, I got the Chargers in this one. They're -2 right now. I can't really explain why. I mean, the Jags, this is a really hot team. They've won 5 games in a row. They've been great down the stretch, and they really crawled their way back out of the division. But they just had a really ugly, sloppy win last week against the Titans. It's really not good. They've looked really, vulnerable at times this year. And I just think the Chargers, if they just don't take their foot off the gas pedal, they should win this game. I think Doug Peterson is going to come up with a great game plan for Jacksonville. I really want to take the Jags low-key, but right now, on the pod, I'm going to take the Chargers by a final score of 24-20.
That's a good score line right there. Yeah, I mean, like I've said, Jags, they've really shocked me throughout this whole regular season. This was a team that at one point really looked like, they were sitting at 2-6 by week 8. And at that point, we were all kind of just like, well, it's going to be another rebuild year. They just traded for Calvin Ridley, so they're really just preparing for next season. But then you get big comeback wins over the Baltimore Ravens, over the Dallas Cowboys to really finish off the rest of the season, really even just spark the spark that we saw this team to win 7 out of their last 9. So for the Jags, they come in looking good, but I agree, Duffy. They definitely haven't looked too good in the last 2 weeks. It was Jets and Titans, if I'm not mistaken, that they played recently.
No, it was the Titans. It was the Texans too. I'm sandwiching between those two.
Yeah. So regardless,
Texans, but that's the Texans, So
yeah, Trevor Lawrence hadn't looked good in both of those games. He really struggled to move the ball, and especially last week against the Titans. I mean, luckily his defense was able to step up, but I do like the point you make. This team is vulnerable. Chargers are vulnerable too. This is a team that had Brandon Staley on the hot seat last year after basically giving away a postseason spot to the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders honestly deserved it at the end of the day. They played way better all season than the Chargers. But they're in a good position right now, and I think Justin Herbert is not going to let this moment escape him. This is a moment he's been dreaming of since he's entered the league, and I think as of this point, with the weapons he has at his disposal, and Austin Eckler and Mike Williams and Joshua Palmer, in Keenan Allen and Gerald Everett, I think this squad has enough pieces to really move up into the divisional round. It'll be a tough one. I think the Jags are going to play it very hard on them because we've seen, like the man in the background, Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne, and Christian Kirk all have career years, including Zay Jones. I forgot to mention his name as well. All have seasons. And I like what I see out of them. But this is a team that was ready for the dance, but not the whole thing. It's not ready for the whole melody and the whole tango that you see these teams go through in the postseason. I think the Chargers are going to take this one, especially after being embarrassed way back in the beginning of the regular season. especially considering Justin Herbert was hurt going into that game. Definitely not looking too hot. I think he will look a lot better in this one. And I'm going to say the final score here is going to be 27-25 Chargers.
Hey, cheeky score. They are -2, so you're right. You're right along with Vegas right there, predicting that score, Chris.
Yeah, trying to keep it very interesting, to say the least. Maybe a safety comes. You never know.
Yeah, perhaps. We'll see.
So, both Chet and Duffy have now taken the Chargers as their pick for this week. And now we move up into Sunday's games. 3 games on the line for Sunday. Another divisional matchup right here, meeting for the third time. Going to Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York, the Buffalo Bills sitting at 13-3, host the 9-8 Miami Dolphins, who basically limped into the postseason after an 11-6 victory last weekend against the New York Jets. Bills, this is a team that, of course, has been great all season, but experiencing a near tragedy a few weeks ago in Cincinnati. And last week really put it to the Patriots in the second half, having 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown to secure the second seed in the postseason. The Dolphins, no Tua Tagovailoa, no Teddy Bridgewater. Skylar Thompson getting his first career start last weekend will start in this one. And sure, these two teams both played very close games in the regular season. 21-19, the Dolphins managed to take the first game. Bills took the next one 32-29 at home. They're back in Orchard Park. However, they're starting a 7th-round pick quarterback who only had his first start last week. So Duffy, there's a lot to unpack, but in my opinion, I feel like there's not much to really talk about here.
Yeah, not much to talk about. This is definitely going to be a blowout game, and I hate to predict blowout of the playoffs, but you kind of said it yourself, Chet. I mean, this is the Dolphins team that limped their way into the postseason. Not looked good before last week. Even in last week, they looked terrible, losing 5 in a row up until that disgusting win the other day. But
yeah,
going to Buffalo against a team that's playing for as much as they are, I don't think they stand a chance this week. This is one of those 35-13 type of games, 34-13 type of games. The Dolphins might get a couple of scoring drives in there, but Buffalo's gonna have their foot on the gas the whole time. And I think if Miami wins this game, we're gonna be talking about this as one of the greatest upsets in playoff history.
Absolutely.
Give me the Bills and give me Bills -13.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Duffy, right there. I mean,
actually, shit.
13.5. Okay. Yeah, it's a big spread. It's a very large margin here in this one. And yeah, I mean, this is a Miami Dolphins team that when it came onto the scene this year, people knew right away they were going to be a good team. They knew right away this team had a chance to make the postseason with additions such as Raheem Mostert, such as Tyreek Hill, such as Bradley Chubb come week 8 for the trade deadline. This team really boosted its roster to go ahead and win games. However, injury bug riddled this team almost useless to this point. However, we see Tyreek Hill coming into the matchup, finishing the regular season second in receptions and yards on the year by a wideout. I like what this team has to bring to the table, but starting a 7th-round pick quarterback to start this game, I just don't see it happening against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. I don't like the odds there. I just think the odds are really stacked too high against them. The Dolphins, they had a great push, but they needed Tua. They needed Tua Tagovailoa, who played in those last 2 games where these two teams faced off this year, which is what made these games so close. It sucks for Dolphin fans, but hey, in this case, better luck next year. I think you'll have a better shot for the next season. Final score on this one, the Bills are going to cover the spread very well. I'm going to say final score on this one's going to be 42-21 Bills.
Don't hate it. Give me the Bills too. I mean, it's going to be a blowout. I don't see Skylar Thompson really competing with Josh Allen, like you said. And, Tua was the reason. It's part of the reason why both the games that the Miami Dolphins gave the Bills this year were very good games. Even winning one of them. But this is going to be a mismatch, I think, in every facet. And, Buffalo, hey, it's going to be under 40 degrees. Miami coming up to Buffalo in January. I don't like the idea either for the Dolphins. So,
yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one to say the least. The temperatures will be cold according to AccuWeather. So we'll see how that all plays out. on Sunday. But now that moves from 1 o'clock slot to the 4:30 slot. We'll head out to an even colder spot in Minneapolis to US Bank Stadium.
Why is this
As
so bad?
I know it's so like, what do you call it?
Jeez.
Blurry. This one's way better.
Yeah.
I mean, we've used it before, but it is what it is. The
Yeah.
Minnesota Vikings hosting the number 6 New York Giants. The Giants this year shocked a lot of people, but I mean, with a new head coach, with a new system coming in, a little bit of additions in the offseason here and there, this team has looked very good, and the rebirth of Saquon Barkley's career has really turned a lot of heads, and even Daniel Jones' performance this year. This is the reason why they drafted a guy like him, is to hopefully get them to the postseason. Despite he didn't put up a superstar performance this year, it was good enough to keep the team in games and put them in this position. Vikings, one of the hottest offenses in football, but also one of the worst defenses in football. Receiver leading the league in receptions, receiving yards. He's all over, and I believe touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, an amazing player. Kirk Cousins having a career year. And this Vikings team looks very poised to make a decent run, but the Giants might have other ideas.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably going to be one of the better games of the week. Probably my second favorite game on the slate this week. Especially with the way these two teams played the other week as well. Giants gave them a great game. They were down 8 in the fourth quarter, made a great game-tying drive, and then the Vikings, as they have all year somehow, the Minnesota Vikings, 11-0 one-score games, that one being one of them, with a 61-yarder from Greg Joseph to win it. But, hey, this weekend, I like Brian Dable. I like the Giants. They're always cheeky. They haven't won a playoff game in 11 years since Super Bowl 46 against the Patriots.
Wow.
It's been a long time. I think this is one of those games that the Giants are going to win. I really do. They've won games like this year. You think about the Ravens game earlier in the year, the going beat the Packers in London earlier this season, winning on the road against the Washington Commanders when the Giants were just very cold at that point. They've just won games they shouldn't have won. This is one of those games that they shouldn't have won. I mean, this is kind of the trendy pick amongst people this week. The Giants are going to go to Minnesota and beat the Vikings. And I'm going to hop on the bandwagon. Give me the Giants in this game. It'll be close, and it's going to be a low-scoring one. It's going to be 23-17 final.
Yeah, that's a good score right there. It's tough for me. I mean, this is a game that I'm battling in my own head about back and forth. But to be honest, Duffy, I think I'm going to have to agree with you. I like what I see out of the Giants this year. I just think this is a team that's really kind of shocked a lot of people and turned a lot of heads in terms of their performance offensively and defensively. They've been able to stay in games with not a ton of superstar talent to boost it. It's just a good game plan that they come in with each week. And sure, they hosted this game in New York, nearly beat them. However, this is a change of scenery. Vikings, this is a team that has had to come from behind too many times this year. They're going to fall behind early in this one. Giants are going to catch them off guard with a nice touchdown from Saquon Barkley, and then maybe add on a field goal afterwards. It's going to be a low-scoring game, like you said, but I think this is a testament to teams going forward. You can't have come-from-behind victories to boost your season throughout the whole year. It just can't be done. It's not sustainable, and it's not something that's Super Bowl worthy. This Vikings team is missing one important piece to win a Super Bowl, and that is the defense. This defense is statistically one of the worst in football, and I just think because of that factor, Kirk Cousins is really going to struggle in this one. I just think they're going to put together a good game plan, New York, and I think the Giants will be able to walk out of Minneapolis feeling very happy about the way their season's gone, especially with all those doubters out there. I'm going to say the final score in this one is going to be Giants 20, Vikings 17.
Okay. I like it. So you're picking the Giants too?
Yes, sir.
You're kind of like untactical for you to be down to me and just picking all the same teams I am.
It would be, but for some reason, I don't know. I honestly was thinking about it when I was writing my article, and I was like, I don't know. I kind of like the Giants right now.
Okay, good man.
Absolutely. So now that moves us to the 8:15 slot, going to Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. A rematch from Week 18 literally just happened a week ago. The Baltimore Ravens are going to come back to Cincinnati to face the Cincinnati Bengals. These two teams faced off twice in the regular season. Ravens took the first one in a close game, 19-17. However, they had Lamar Jackson in that one. Ever since then, this team has not scored has scored less than 20 points ever since Lamar Jackson's injury, losing last week 27-16 to Cincinnati. Bengals, this was a team that at one point was 2-3 on the year. Most people were like, hey, they're probably going through some Super Bowl blues. I don't know what they're going to be able to do. 8-game win streak to finish the season. The O-line came together as a solid core. Joe Burrow's been sacked less than he ever has in his entire career at this point. And the run game, despite it being lackluster, it's still productive, and Burrow's able to find targets, and that defense is able to lock people down. The only saving grace I'd say for the Ravens right now is that defense of theirs.
Yeah, the defense has been really stepping up in the absence of Lamar Jackson. We saw a similar story last year when the Ravens were 8-3, and then Lamar got hurt, and then missed the rest of the season. And part of me can't not think that Lamar isn't doing this partially, for out of his own personal reasons, like him not getting paid up by now. We saw it 2 years in a row now where Lamar just has not played in December, basically. Maybe it's getting a little bit overshadowed by the narrative that the Ravens management's bad. But Lamar, this is supposed to be a 2 or 3 week injury. He's been out for 6 weeks now. We have the playoffs this weekend. He's seen his team has no chance without him. And Bengals are going to smoke the Ravens in this game. Lamar's not going to play. Bengals are going to win this thing pretty easily. Tyler Huntley's not throwing in practice either. He's been.
Oh, they just said he was throwing today.
Well, yeah. Well, he's been pretty bad anyways. I mean, Anthony Brown looked pretty bad last week. Threw the ball 44 times. Completed 19 passes on the game. So, Bengals offense, like you mentioned, 8 wins in a row to end the season. They've been clicking on all cylinders, and they're winning this game. They're feeling fired up. Ravens are their arch rivals. Burrow now, I think 3-1 against the Ravens all time, 3-2, I believe, including his rookie year. So I think they'll win this one tomorrow or Saturday, excuse me. Oh, Sunday, my bad. Sunday night. Shit, it's in 3 days. Give me Burrow and the Ravens. It went from -7 to -10 since yesterday, which is crazy to think about. I knew it was going to go like that. I didn't know it would be that high, but I got the Bengals winning this one. I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring. Give me a final score of 31 to 10.
Wow, that's a dominating performance right there. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Ravens, who do they have to throw to? Rashad Bateman, done for the year. Devin Duvernay, done for the year. Only guy I can see being a passing option is Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews is basically, his back's broken at this point from just carrying this team so much. And yet it's not enough for them to win a damn game. For me right now, you need Lamar. You need him. And he's not going to play out of pettiness, I feel, at this point, because like you said, he wants to get paid. Is he still hurt? Who the hell knows? The organization isn't going to let that out.
Definitely not really. I'll tell you that.
It'd be funny if he wasn't. He's just chilling at home, just being like, hey, man, And to be honest, what's kind of interesting, I read this today, that if the Ravens don't sign him, Jets owner says they're willing to put in, New York Jets owner said he's willing to spend a ton of money on him this offseason. I don't want to see him come to the Jets. Hell no. I don't want him in the AFC East. So for me, but regardless in all this, Ravens don't stand a chance, in my opinion. Without Lamar, they're nothing. They've got nothing to play for. They have something to play for, but they don't. It's the odds are stacked against them once again. The Bengals, this is a team that is on a mission to get back to the Super Bowl like they were last year and actually take care of business this time. They're going to start off in this game. Big blowout win. I'm going to say final score of the matchup, 38-17.
Yeah. I mean, Lamar's not going to play. Ravens have no chance. I think everyone knows that. Everyone who's seen the Ravens the last month knows that. And, it's a shame because this was supposed to be potential showdown in Week 18 for the AFC North. A potential great. This would have been the best wildcard game on the slate, I think, if Lamar played 100%. And it sucks that he's not going to.
Yeah.
Sitting on 6 weeks injured, It's disappointing. It's very disappointing.
It really is. It's tough to kind of look at and just kind of say at the end of the day, like, oh, what could have been really? Because I mean,
Back to back
that
years
was
too.
the last 2 years. You could say that as a Ravens fan, what could have been if Lamar actually freaking played the game? I mean, last year, that's an exception.
Yeah.
He was really hurt last year.
Yeah, he
Definitely couldn't
was.
have played. But this year, I don't know. I don't know what's the details with the injury or if it's just simply contract related. The media would like to circulate that it's about the contract, but that's just the media doing what it does best, which is stir the pot. So we'll see what happens with this one at the end of the day.
Said there's still inflammation around his knee, and his knee remains unstable. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. That's just the report. We don't know what's actually happening unless we're there. So give me the Bengals. I think regardless if Lamar were to play, I'd still take the Bengals. The margin would just be a lot closer in that regard. But no Lamar, give me Cincinnati. So now,
no chance.
That concludes the Sunday night slate, and we move to the sole Monday night matchup at 8:15. The Dallas Cowboys at 12-5 will head to the 8-9 Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Raymond James Stadium out in Tampa Bay, Florida. Bucs limped into the postseason with an 8-9 win in a very, very shitty NFC South division, to say the least.
Yeah.
It was probably one of the worst. It was the worst division in football, without a doubt. Brady still top 5 in the league in passing somehow in terms of yards. And I mean, coming into this one with a solid unit, the secondary's still a little disheveled over there in Tampa. And the Cowboys, I mean, the defense hasn't been playing well for them. The offense has been playing pretty solid for all around, I'd say. And I mean, the Cowboys, they're here for a reason. And they've definitely had a good dual attack between Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. And this one could be a good game, in my opinion. It's going to be close, though, at the end of the day.
Probably my favorite game on the schedule this Monday night game. I think the Cowboys are a better team. I really do. Do I think they're going to be the squad that puts Tom Brady into retirement? No, I don't. I think it would go against everything I know to pick the Cowboys over Tom Brady in the playoffs at home. So I'm going to pick the Bucs in this game. Super low scoring. Cowboys are a way better team. But if they lose to the 8-9 Bucs, the ratings would be crazy. The memes would be crazy. Give me the Bucs. I can't explain why. I might change my opinion on Monday, but it's Tom Brady at home in the playoffs against the Cowgirls.
Cowgirls.
Give me the Bucs. Give me a final score of 17-13.
Wow.
Slugfest. Defensive. And
I
the
like
Bucs
that.
go on. They're going to go on to San Francisco, and they're going to win that game too following week.
Wow. So you're really talking about maybe a retirement tour for Tom Brady in this case. Well, for me, that tour
spanked by the Birds in the NFC Championship.
Wow. Yeah, that would be crazy if he got cranked by the Eagles. But for me right now, Duffy, I'm going to say the retirement tour will not even occur. We're going to see the Dallas Cowboys stun everyone in Tampa. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. It's going to be a close game. But Dallas, this is a totally different Dallas Cowboys team that we've seen in recent memory. The defense looks a lot better. This offensive attack going to CeeDee Lamb a lot more, seeing the ball get spread out just as much by Dak. And I just like the threat that the Cowboys bring to the table this postseason. I think this is a lot different of a team than we've seen in recent memory. The Bucs, on the other hand, there's a good case. They got hot the right time at the end of the year to secure the South. But there's just too much that this team has done in the regular season for me to trust them. I hate to pick against Tom Brady, the greatest of all time. But I think in this case, I think Dallas is going to draw up certain schemes to really make Brady make a mistake or even just have things out of sync. I think the Bucs are going to be out of sync in certain ways in this one because they've never been in sync. The only game they were in sync for this year was that game against the Panthers when Mike Evans had 3 touchdowns. He's not going to do it in this one. He's not. I'm telling you that right now. I'm going to take Dallas in this one.
1 touchdown and a 17-13 victory.
Yeah. I think in this one, the Cowboys are going to make a statement that they're here this postseason and that they actually will have a chance to make a run for it. I don't know how far that run will go, but I think it starts in Tampa. Final score on this one, I'm going to say the final is 21-20 Cowboys.
Wow. Crazy pick. Dallas is -2.5 right now.
Yeah.
They're the road favorites.
Yeah. It's definitely something that I'm hesitant with, but in a way, I'm also very confident in this pick. I just don't like what I've seen out of Tampa this year, and I just think they're really going to disappoint people when it comes down to it.
Jeez.
Oh, that sounded great in the microphone.
Did it?
Yeah, it did. It actually did.
My volume like better with this?
Yeah, you sound a lot like clearer. Not like you didn't before, but it's like, you actually sound like very good and professional in that regard.
Hi, my name is Chris Heatu.
Is that your impression of me?
No, I was just doing a demo.
Do a legit impression. Do a legit Chet impression. That's how we can end off the show.
Dude. You want to come on and play Roblox tonight with me? Nah, Chet doesn't play Roblox.
No, I
That's
don't.
the guy who's like, bro, did you see what happened with fill in the blank event? Bro. Chet loves the word bro.
Yeah, I do. That is one of my favorite words.
Chet loves hell yeah.
Hell yeah. That's a good one too. Let me think of a good Duffy impression.
Are we good?
Yo, what's up, man? Yo, Chet, we good, bro? Yo, Shinobi. I have a question. Dude.
Shinobi, I got a question, man. Are we good?
Are we good, Shinobi?
Please, Shinobi, please. Was it louder if I'm like this?
No, honestly, no, not really.
Nah.
It's very interesting.
Cool. That's fire.
It's cool. Definitely fire.
No, it's fire. A 2023 Pats Super Bowl championship for next year. It's coming.
It's coming. We're calling it. Duffy's calling it right now. Be sure to record this. Put it up on social.
How is it already 2023? This is ridiculous.
How is it like any year? Every time the year changes, to be honest.
You know why? Because at the end of the day, we're all just people living, baby.
It's so funny, dude, because me and TJ were talking about that the other night and kind of like breaking that down and being like, he is right about that.
Yeah, we're all just people living, dude. And it's crazy to think about. We all get so caught up in our own shit all the time, trying to make sure we're being the best versions of ourselves. But hey, once we drop dead, nothing's going to matter anymore.
Exactly. Hey, that is Chet and Duffy's new podcast called, The Experience of Life through Chet and Duffy. Hey,
it's called We're All
I
Just
think that's
People
a good trademark.
We're all just people living with Chet and Duffy.
That'd be a funny, dude. We might have to patent that before somebody else does.
It's crazy how ... with Chet and Duffy.
Wow, we're just spitballing ideas. But all right, to end off the show, your number one favorite matchup was Bucks Cowboys, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Me, my favorite matchup of the slate is going to be Chargers Jags. I think that game is probably going to be my favorite.
That'll be a cheeky game for sure.
It sure will be. But we will see how the rest of the week plays out. Next week, we're looking forward to potentially having some guests aboard for discussion on the recap of the Wildcard round and then discussion of the divisional round. And then, hopefully before the Super Bowl, we're planning to do this before the Super Bowl, Chet and Duffy will be having a new intro video, so you don't just have to see the countdown. You get the intro video too, and that one is in the works of being done right now.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be. But until then, with more exciting news right here on Chet and on Unapologetic, this is Chet and Duffy signing off, and we will catch you all on the next one. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go Pats.
Go Pats.